the View My Sports Studios, it's The Breakdown with your hosts, Roger Tillis and Chuck Olesker. Today's guest on The Breakdown, he's a former collegiate wrestler and the head wrestling coach for Creekside High School in St. John's, Florida. Welcome, Coach Rick Marabell. Hello, welcome to today's edition of The Breakdown. I'm Roger Tillis, your host, here joined on my right by Chuck Olesker, your co-host. And today we have got a fantastic guest, actually quite a treat. We've got Coach Rick Marabell. He is the head wrestling coach at Creekside High School in St. John's, Florida. Rick, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, welcome to be here.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're real excited. Of course, the sport today that we're really going to focus on is wrestling. And I tell you, wrestling is taking a beating right now at the collegiate level. Luckily, the high schools still have it. At least the last time I checked, most of the high schools still had it. But, of course, you know, the Olympics, to me, that was the biggest slap in the face when the Olympics pulled it.
Well, absolutely.
You must have had nightmares over that.
Yeah, I mean, I was out at the when I wrestled in the Air Force. I got a chance to go out to the Olympic training camp. They already had the team picked, and I got to practice with the Greco team and the freestyle team.
Nice.
And it was one of the biggest thrills. I mean, guys that are coaches now, they're great coaches like John Smith. I got to wrestle with him.
Wow.
And being out there, it's a totally different level. I got to wrestle some of the top guys in the world. They had Czechoslovakia there working out, the Army guys and the Marines, and it's just a whole different atmosphere. I mean, these guys work extremely hard.
It's a whole nother level.
It is. It is. And in the Olympics, you know, this is before the MMA stuff. The Olympics is the crown jewel for that's what every kid that wrestles is looking at.
Sure.
I think I can be an Olympiad. And if you have goals like that, I mean, even if you never make it, but if you set your goal that high and you work that hard to get there, even if you don't make it, everything else that, you know, I tell kids, everything else that you want to be successful at, you know, all your little goals fill in if you work for the big goal. And them losing the Olympics, or, you know, I think they're going to get it. I think
someone's going to put some pressure.
I think so. I mean, there's too many other sports they can unload.
Right.
I mean,
but wait a minute. And now, if you're talking about messing with ballroom dancing, we're going to have a scuffle now. That's right.
Well, I tell you, my thing is, I don't diminish any other sport. You know, there's speed walking. You know, I don't get it, but this is the original sport.
Right,
This
exactly.
is from the original Olympics and then the original modern Olympics. And they, you know, to me, you know, you talk about them losing. There's only one state that doesn't have wrestling. I think it's Mississippi or Louisiana. It's only one state in the union that does not have wrestling.
Wow.
So wrestling is actually pretty big. Now, not every state has colleges, and that's where you're starting to lose you know, wrestling and stuff. But also you're starting to gain wrestling. I think Georgia picked up 4 colleges that have wrestling now. And North Carolina's just picked up Coker College, where one of my wrestlers going to.
Do you see it being some of these smaller schools that are bringing in the wrestling because they're not having to spend so much in scholarships, you know, like NAIA or some of the smaller club teams?
I see that a lot. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I've seen from good teams from Pennsylvania that were Division I, dropped down to Division II. I've seen, you know, my school that I went to, junior college, they got rid of wrestling, and we had a huge tradition of it. And they got rid of wrestling, and you know, I hope they brought a club in.
Right.
They do the college club, and people don't understand that. Anytime a college club comes into a program, it's great, but they'll never get a real program.
Right.
They've already filled the void, and people don't understand that because they talk about, you know, different schools like University of Central Florida, which has a good college club program, and they go, that would be a great Division I, Division II program. They'll never bring a program. They've already filled the void.
Man,
you know,
too bad.
You know, I mean, and Florida needs to jump on the bandwagon. Georgia has. Yeah. You know, there's too many good wrestlers in Florida, and fortunately, a lot of these schools that have opened up in North Carolina and South Carolina are actually coming after the Florida wrestlers. I look at, you know, I pay attention to that as a coach because I see I go on their website, see who they're recruiting, and then that's how I find where, you know, hey, I send them some information.
See where you can plug them in. Yeah, you bet.
Was the college, when they dropped the program, was it because just the lack of interest in it, or it wasn't because of a Title IX?
My wrestling coach, Larry Fornicola, was there. He passed away. He was 56 years old, died of cancer, and he was there since the 60s.
Oh, wow.
And he was a national champion from Penn State. He was there from the 60s, and he passed away. And I think what happened was the AD that they brought in was looking to take the school in a different direction. They were a 4-year school then. It was a 2-year when I was there. Different direction. I think the Title IX might have came in. Hey, we want to bring because they want to bring in more women's sports, and they have all kinds of sports there except for wrestling. They have a club wrestling.
There's so much money in of course, the football. Yeah, I mean, it seems like that seems to be the magnet.
Well, wrestling, especially in Pennsylvania, is a hotbed.
Right.
I mean, it's the number one state still in the country for wrestling. And you could be, a mediocre wrestler, and you can wrestle in college in Pennsylvania because there's so many schools that offer it, and you can be successful. Because the competition, I tell kids, I never made the states in high school. I mean, I was a 4-time regional qualifier, as a 2-time district champion, which is huge in Pennsylvania.
Oh, imagine.
It's like winning regionals down here. I mean, but when you get to the regional, the state level, if you make, especially the region I came in, if you made the states, and there they only took the top 3, and I placed 4th.
Oh, wow. So you just missed it.
Yeah, I mean, I got actually in the semifinals, I got dropped on my head, and I lost the match by a point, and I could have stopped the mat and say, because I wasn't there, I wasn't all there, and I just said no, I'm keeping going. I don't win like this.
Yeah, there you go.
And it affected me the rest of the day, but I don't regret it. I mean, I was one of the top wrestlers in the state.
Yeah,
at the time.
Well, I was going to say making it to that level.
Right.
I mean, people don't understand how difficult it is just to get to that level.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, how old were you when you first started wrestling?
I was about 6 or 7 years old.
Wow.
And it was actually by accident. My older brother, my dad wrestled. My dad was actually part of the first wrestling team at my high school. And one of the friends of ours who was a teacher got my brother to wrestle, who's 3 years older than me. And back in the 70s, we only had one car. So I had to come along, and next thing I know, I'm rolling on the mat, and 2 weeks later, I'm in a tournament, and I won the tournament.
Oh, wow. So you were a natural.
I was small. I was very small. I only weighed like 45 pounds. And I wrestled 55, won the tournament, and I was hooked ever since.
Wow.
That's cool.
But, I see kids that wrestle really young. I see parents that have their kids wrestle real young. And I see this in the other sports where they go a little crazy with it.
Yeah.
My parents, they took us from tournament to tournament. I got the mat time. I really didn't really excel until I got into about 7th, 8th grade. Things started clicking for me.
Right.
I was pretty good at a young age. I mean, I was a AAU regional champion, and
Excellent.
I placed at AAU states. But I really didn't excel. Things didn't start clicking until 7th, 8th grade. And you see a lot of these young kids that are they're phenoms at a young age at any sport.
Sure.
But what happens? They get in high school, they're just like everybody else.
Everybody else catches up.
To them. And I think parents go a little crazy with that.
And you're right. We see that in so many sports now. Where he's going to be the next Tom Brady or the next this that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, come on, man, let him catch up.
Let him be a kid for one thing.
Yeah.
But I started wrestling. My parents, I played all kinds of sports. I played baseball.
I was just going to ask you what other sports you played.
The thing is, when I grew up, there was only for little kid sports. There was baseball, which is little league. And then there was, we had wrestling. They just started a youth program, and that was it.
Yeah.
There wasn't soccer. My younger brother, who's 5 years younger than me, played football. I didn't play football until 7th grade. And
it'd be kind of tough when you're only 45 pounds to.
Yeah, but I was a tough little guy. I was a running back.
I hope you were fast.
Yeah. But I was a great tackler. I mean, that was my thing. And but they didn't have all these sports like they have now here. Like especially in Florida, they got all kinds of sports. Lacrosse. I mean, I think kids playing sports is a great thing.
Oh, you bet.
My son, he plays soccer, and I've had him out for wrestling. He liked it, and then he's like, "Yeah, I don't like it." We had him out at the baseball camp. He's like, "I don't like it."
Yeah, there's no kind of liking wrestling. That was one thing I found. You either got into it, or you ran as fast as you could in the opposite direction. There was no, because it's such a committed sport.
It is, and I think
that's the kind
of kids I get. I get kids that are committed. And I tell kids, I want my wrestlers. I don't want them to play just one sport. I try to push them towards cross country. I mean, going to my junior year, I stopped playing football. I knew I wasn't going to go to school for football. Mm-hmm. I wasn't big enough. I was a realist, so I started running cross country, and I ran cross country. I went from football to cross country, and I would have been a starter. I was an outside linebacker, but I knew I wanted to go to school to wrestle, and I knew cross country would make me a better sport.
Get that endurance going.
Yeah, and I have a few of my wrestlers run cross country. Coach Frank over there does an awesome job with them, and I have the kids run track. I know some coaches, they want their kids wrestling year round, like all sports. I think baseball year round, football year round.
We did the track route.
And I do expect my kids to wrestle over the summer stuff, but I do want them to be kids.
Sure.
I tell them when wrestling becomes a job, or any sport becomes a job, and it becomes a grinding thing, you don't want to do it.
Yeah, it's a grind enough as it is. You don't want to.
It is.
You don't want to add that extra weight of it. It's almost like your parents leaning on you about it.
I tell the kids, no matter what sport they play, baseball. I talk to my younger brother all the time about baseball. They have to do it. They have to. It doesn't say they have to play 100 games over the summer, but they need to at least go to the cages. Say my wrestlers, at least get some mat time.
Sure.
And a lot of them got mats at their house and they wrestle around their house and stuff. And
we had a mat at our house. It was called the backyard. That's right. It was the grass.
My dad had rugs. My dad
driveway.
Rugs.
Asphalt burns.
That's right.
Hey, we
built character.
I can recall moving the furniture out of my friend's living room while his mom was grocery shopping, and his older brother was a big wrestler at Bishop Kenny, and he wrestled, and that's where I wrestled for the 1 year. And the worst thing for wrestlers is when it's raining outside, because you stay inside. Well, what are you going to do? And we tore that bloody house apart, man. We had the carpet. Well, now let me ask you something, Rick. Now you wrestled collegiately. Did you go via scholarship, or did you walk on? What was the situation for you when you went?
Keystone was a private junior college. Back in 1985, it was $5,000 to commute there.
Wow.
So that's a lot of money. It was $8,000 to stay there. And I knew I wanted to wrestle there because I loved Coach Fornicole. I knew him since I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. And I knew I wanted to wrestle there. I had good grades in high school. I didn't have the grades that like some of these kids have now, and all this AP stuff. We didn't have all
4.2 GPAs. I didn't even know that was possible.
We didn't have all this stuff, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to go to school for. But I knew I wanted to wrestle for Coach Fornicole. And they didn't give scholarship money, so I worked at Procter & Gamble over the summer as a summer hire. That's what most people did, because that was the big company, and I put money away. But I got grant money. They had types of grant money back then.
Sure.
Then then I was after Keystone, I was looking at colleges, state colleges, Pennsylvania time. I think it was like $3,000 a semester. It wasn't really super expensive.
Sure.
Well, what you say super expensive today.
Yeah. Right.
Back then it was. But and I was looking at a state college to go to, and I ended up going to Millersville. It was actually by accident. I was gonna my sophomore year, I was ranked number 2 in the nation at 126, and I broke my collarbone. At the beginning of the season, I was undefeated. I knocked off like number 3, number 4 in the nation for junior college, and I was able to come back in 4 or 5 weeks, which is usually a broken collarbone.
That's
huge. I was able to come back, but the problem was the workouts I was doing for my collarbone. I couldn't do pull-ups. It was hard doing push-ups, and I ended up coming back, and I ended up ripping my cartilage in my rib.
Oh God!
And I was going to move. I was at 26. I was going to move down to 118. I think I would have been an All-American. Now I'm a 2-time junior college national qualifier, but I didn't even go my sophomore year. I lost to the national champion by a point with a ripped cartilage. He was eventual national champion, but to go to nationals, my coach looked at me. Fornicola goes, "You want to?" I go, "I can't do it anymore." And I was doing a wrestling camp for him that summer, and I was gonna come back to Keystone for just a semester to finish up my AA degree. And the coach at Millersville, who I knew since I was a little kid, was there, and he's like, "Hey, where are you going to go to school?" And I go, "Well, I'm looking at Syracuse," and I was looking at Kutztown, both D1, and he goes, "No, you need to come to Millersville." And I said, "Well, school starts in 3 weeks." He goes, "Get your transcripts in." And within 3 weeks, I was approved.
Wow.
And for me, it was a bad situation the way I went in, because I didn't know what transferred. So when I was getting my class, I was taking classes I already had.
Oh, no.
and
So you're going to be really, really good in those classes.
And actually, they were tougher. And then, money wise, because I was at the end of the scholarship pool, I got a little money, got meal money, which is to me was the most important thing.
Sure.
Something to eat, but I rushed into it, and I should, all I wanted to do was wrestle Division I. And I look back at it now that, I tell kids, hey, there's so many different options. And
the college experience too. I mean, just like we had a guy on one of our last shows, and he says, I always tell the kids, when you go to one of the colleges for a visit, pretend you get out of the car and you blow out an ACL. All of a sudden, your sport's gone. Now go take a look at this college and see what the school aspects are.
Yeah,
the social, the size of class, things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's when I like I just had a kid. He's going to D2. We were looking Division I. He's from Pennsylvania. He was going to go back to Pennsylvania, and some schools looking at him and stuff. And he goes, "You think I can compete at Division I?" I said, "Yeah, but it's a different animal." I go, to me, unless the coach is recruiting you, they're coming at you, and you're trying to walk on, you're just a wrestling partner.
I was going to say you're a sparring partner.
You really are. You're a sparring partner. And I go, they talked to him about being, redshirting his freshman year. I said, then you're a possibility. You're not. If they're just bringing you in the red shirt, you're a possibility.
Yeah, just like all the other kids that are coming behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be.
I go,
tough.
unless you're a 4-time state champion and they're going to give you a full ride to sit, you're a possibility. And one of the two Division II colleges wanted to do that with them. They wanted the red shirt, and they weren't giving them a lot of money. And I said, well, why don't you talk when you go up there? Why don't you talk to the kids that are being recruited as well, and that are going to be red shirt, and see how much money they're getting.
Sure. And compare notes.
And he's like, wow. He goes, I go, you're a possibility. And that's what you have to look at. And I think that's the same thing when I went to Millersville. I was a possibility. I think I could have started, but I walked in weighing 150 pounds, 155 pounds, and I was planning on wrestling 134, 126, and the coach was like, I didn't bring you here for that. I brought you here to wrestle 118. And I tell you,
there went that meal plan.
Yeah,
right.
No
food
and back
for you.
then there was
That's
no
right.
rules about how to make weight. There was saunas, plastics, and stuff. And
I remember laying under the mat, pull the mat over, and just lay there and sweat to death.
It was actually the first time in my life that I didn't like to wrestle anymore. And because I'm a big believer, wrestling should be fun. I think it should be fun.
As any sport should be.
When I was at Keystone, that was my coach's philosophy. That even though we're going to work hard, you're going to have fun. And when I left Millersville, I could have went through Division II, but I think just the taste of it, what I went through, it was tough. And I take that with my kids when we're looking at schools that they're wanting to wrestle. This is what you need to look at. I look at the coach, I look at the program. Sometimes I email kids that are from Florida that are at that school. Hey, what do you think of the school and stuff, just to find out their philosophy. What do you think of the coaching staff?
Sure.
And to me, that's the most important.
Absolutely. Well, and that's that. You're exactly right. I mean, I think too many kids and parents, and in some cases the coaches at the high schools, they just kind of go in for the end result. But they have to understand you can't, it's not just being able to sign a national letter of intent.
Yeah.
You need, there are different things. And that's what we talk about a lot is what's the list of things that you want to check off, when you go and do your unofficial visits and stuff like that, in which we highly encourage. Matter of fact, tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into a little bit of that. We're going to get into some of the ins and outs, and maybe you can share some of your, your wisdom, if you will, with our, with our audience, so that, as they, get on that recruiting journey, they'll know what they're looking at. So, all right, well, tune back in. We'll be right back with you. Thanks. There are thousands of high school athletes that want to play at the college level. They just don't get noticed. At ViewMySport.com, we get your game out of the shadows and into the college spotlight. It's fast, easy, best of all, it's free. In the time you can text your friends, you can create and send your own athlete profile to as many colleges as you want. Get to the next level. Visit ViewMySport.com today and follow the 3 simple steps. Why wait? Your competition's not. All right, and we're back. Thanks again for joining us here on The Breakdown. I'm Roger Tillis, your host, joined with Chuck Olesker, your co-host, and today's very special guest, Coach Rick Marabell. I got to be careful there and make sure I don't call you your brother's name, Luke. For those of you that don't know, and why would you know unless you're from Creekside High School, Rick's brother actually is the baseball coach at Creekside High School, so I got to keep them straight of who's where. Maybe on a future show we'll actually have Luke in to talk about baseball recruiting. I think there we go. Already got another guest in the hopper.
That's right.
Well, before we jump back into wrestling and recruiting, Chuck, who is our ViewMySport.com Athlete of the Week?
The Athlete of the Week globe stops in Daphne, Alabama, which is down there east of Mobile Bay. Dominic Bristolara is a place kicker and punter, class of 2014 for Daphne High School. So congratulations to Dominic for being ViewMySport.com's Athlete of the Week.
All right. Congratulations, Dominic. Great job. And now I believe he is another product. We have a great training facility partnered with ViewMySport.com, one-on-one kicking. And this kid, of course, they're all over the nation. And him being in Alabama, I know they worked with him very well. And he's one of their prodigies, and doing real well. So kudos to one-on-one kicking, Mike McCabe, and that whole crew as well. It's funny. We love when we get these athletes of the week from the different areas, in around the country, not just the country, but around the world, because we've had them in, more than 59 other countries. But now I got to call you out on something. Did you pronounce that right? Is it Mobile or is it Mobile? Is it Mobile?
Mobile.
I'm telling you, they're gonna.
I got it.
I don't want to get emails and calls, calling you out on it. Just making sure. Making sure.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Good job. Thanks again, Dominic. And of course, Dominic, it doesn't stop on the website. If you need any help, any assistance, you have questions, anything unique to your situation, go to the website, click on Contact Us, and send it over. We've got fantastic advisors, and we'll be more than happy to walk through any situation and help you out. So that's about it. Let's get going in wrestling. Yep. Man, I tell you what, we had a great first segment. We're going to get into a little bit more detail now with our guest here, Coach Rick Marabell. Now, we stopped and we were starting to just dust, if you will, the types of information that the high school wrestling athlete should be, getting themselves exposed with and prepped for when they go on visits. And we're real big on the unofficial visit. As a matter of fact, when kids go to camps, we advise them, try to get there a couple days early, take a tour of the campus, maybe meet the coach, or go and talk to somebody at admissions, really get a big bang for the buck. But now wrestling, obviously a unique sport. You get into the collegiate level, it's pretty darn unique, even more so. There's obviously things that the high school athlete, wrestling athlete, and their parents need to be prepared for, and how to approach the coaches and the whole process. What are some of those things when they're going and they're starting to take a look at schools and thinking, man, maybe I could wrestle at the collegiate level? What do you got for them?
Well, the first thing I tell them is like you were talking about, going there and walking the campus and stuff. They need to look at the classroom. They need to look at the education situation, because the first and foremost, you're going there for education. And
yet again,
and because once wrestling's over, unless you're going MMA or something like that, or even if you're gonna Olympics, you got to fall back on something. Education is number one.
Sure.
And you have to look at what type of student that you are. Big schools, big classrooms. You're going to be in classrooms with 150 kids.
Right.
Small schools, they have small classes, 25 kids. You may, you have to look at your personality. And teaching at Creekside, I tell you, we're one of the top schools in the country, top 100, top 500 schools in the country. Number one county in the state. And we have, a unique situation where our students, they're going through the college experience, but they're not going through the, that's why we have a lot of kids go to Florida State, and they do quite well there. But you have to first look at the education situation. And you have to look at your major. You just can't say, hey, I want to wrestle for this school because they're nationally ranked.
Sure.
You have to look at, hey, is this going to be good for me? I tell the kids to look at the town. Look what type of town they have. All athletes get in trouble. You see it in the news. You see it in the news, and they, the situation. And you have to look at, hey, is this the kind of place that I can see myself getting in trouble?
Yeah.
Because one thing you don't want to do is lose your scholarship.
Right. Right. And the temptation is enough on the college campus, but you're right. The surrounding town and what their perks are running.
Absolutely.
Like Vegas. I could never go to college in Vegas. I tell you, no offense to Las Vegas, man. But
I thought about transfer. Two of my buddies from high school, that went to junior college, and went to UNLV. And my mom, she's like, "You're not going out there."
I expected to see to see a electric fence with barbed wire on the top to keep the kids in, because I just couldn't imagine.
And they both went out there, and they still live out there. But my mom's like, "You're not going out there."
Nice.
And I tell you. And that's one of the biggest things, education. And that's what I push to the kids. You're going there for education. But they're also, if they're giving you money to wrestle, you have to be successful. But you have to first look at what they have to offer.
Sure.
There's a lot of great schools, a lot of great private schools, NIA, Division II, even Division III, who do not offer athletic scholarships, but they do offer academic scholarships.
Right. Now, what about JUCO? Are there a lot of wrestling
up
programs?
north? There is, not down here, and I think junior college and community colleges are the best American inventions of education.
Sure, you bet.
And a lot of kids. I went to junior college. I knew I was. Around me, I had Wilkes College Division I. I looked at them, but it was $11,000 ago.
Right.
I think it was more than. It's great. I had a lot of schools around me, Division I, Division II, Division III, that I had a lot of choices. But I knew a junior college for me to start off was the best thing.
Was a great fit.
And there's a lot up north. There's a lot now. A couple of the schools that are open up in Georgia, I think they're 4-year schools, but they have junior college programs.
Oh, okay, interesting.
You're starting to see that. You're starting to see that. And that's one thing. I talked to some of my kids that were interested in wrestling. I said, listen, if you want to wrestle in college, I think junior college, especially up where I'm from in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, are the breeding ground for Division I.
Mm-hmm.
They really are. And I think I tell them if you want to go Division I, your first, unless you're their top prospect, you're a wrestling partner. If you go to junior college, you can build yourself up to say, hey, by the time you're sophomore year, I want this kid. This is a kid I want to recruit. And they look at junior college.
It's a proving ground,
right?
Yeah,
it really is. It really is. I wish more schools below the Mason-Dixon line had the junior college wrestling, because I think it's a great program. I think down here you see more of the NIA schools, which is to me just great.
a lot of money, course grades.
Right.
They
absolutely.
like grades.
And when I went to school, I knew nothing about an NIA school.
Today, most don't know about NIA.
And I'm like, I wish I would have looked at that.
Yeah. You and me both.
And I tell you, there's so much out there. And I think the biggest thing is parents have to, no matter what sport it is, sometimes your son is not or daughter is not a Division I prospect.
Yeah.
They're Division II, and they can be. I tell you, football. There's a lot of Division II guys playing in the NFL.
Sure.
They stood out.
Right. And they grow. And this is what we try to tell the parents. And from a personal experience, but you see it, and you see it a lot with the kids. They leave high school, they get out of their, that freshman year of college, and all of a sudden, boom, they just blossom. Yeah. Physically, mentally, they mature. So you see a lot of these kids that they can become whatever they want to become.
Absolutely.
They might not be peak when they get out of high school.
I see that at Creekside, especially the wrestling, because most of my wrestlers, I would say 80% of them don't start until their freshman year. And I kind of realized that, listen, these kids aren't going to really develop about their junior year. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I think these guys, if they want to wrestle, I think when they're freshmen or sophomore year in college, I think they're going to explode. And that's one of the things when my Shane Carpenter's being recruited. I told coaches, listen, this guy's got a lot more wrestling ahead of him. And he started wrestling when he was young. Yeah. But football was his thing up north. He's from Pennsylvania. And wrestling was, he loved wrestling. I mean, it's one reason he came to Creekside. But I saw him. I got him his junior year. I saw a major difference from his junior senior year. I saw a huge expansion of his ability, and I told the coaches, this guy's a future national champion. Nice. Division I or Division II. And fortunately, he decided to go to Division II, which I thought was a better fit for him. It took some convincing to him, and I said, but go look at the schools. And he looked at a lot of schools. I said, go to many schools you possibly can. But look how they treat you. Look at the other kids around you. Some schools, they did the shotgun. They brought everybody in at once. Right. Yeah. You're on a mad dash. And then some of the colleges never talked to me. I sent them information, but they never talked to me.
They didn't need any validation or anything.
Didn't ask me about the kid, about his personality. And to me as a coach, and to me as a kid, how do you know this kid? By watching a film. You don't. And they're not talking to the coach, especially the sport of wrestling. Right. So, but the schools that the coaches came and talked to me, and I'm saying they have to talk to me, but if you want to know more about the kid, who most?
How about a little character?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and like what you mentioned before, that there's a lot of trouble going on out there. Yeah. And to me, as from a collegiate coaching standpoint, there's a lot of talent out there. I want to know, though, that the guy I'm bringing in, or the girl, is going to go to class, will represent the team and the school with character, personality, and there's just too much of the bad out there. There's a lot of good too. It's not like it's running rampant, but because media obviously brings attention, to these issues, but the schools are spending so much money now, and we'll back that up a second. Some people say, well, I'm getting a scholarship. It's only $5,000 or only $10,000. Now, for some, that could mean, oh, well, it's not enough for me to go. I need more elsewhere, and I can't get it elsewhere, so I can't take that scholarship. Yeah. But the fact is, the schools are spending a lot of money on these kids, and they're putting a lot of time in. It's kind of like when you hire employees and you train them so that they quit and go elsewhere. Well, I mean, these coaches don't want to put all that time in either.
It's a business, and that's what I tell the kids. I said, listen, I when they recruit, I said, with college, I go, it was a little different from when back in '85 when I wrestled. Now it's more of a business. Oh yeah. And I said, you're an investment, and they're bringing you in here because one thing they want you to have good grades, because they know if they're going to invest in you, you're going to be successful in the classroom. Because if you're not eligible, you're not going to help them. Yeah. Number two, they have to be successful as coaches. It's like being a CEO of a company. Sure. If you're not successful, they're going to get rid of you. So they need to bring the right kind of kids come in there to be successul, or they're not going to have a job, and it's a dog-eat-dog world. Oh yeah. And I tell all my kids, I got a few younger guys that they're talking about wrestling in college, and I said there's so much opportunity. There is so much opportunity in wrestling that they just don't know about it. And you talk about, do you have to be a state champion? It was funny. Shane found out that being a state champion in Florida is not as prestigious as being a state champion in Pennsylvania. Right. Pennsylvania. Sure. And he beat on, he wrestled a lot of Pennsylvania kids at the Disney duels, and he beat on a lot of them, and that were state placers and stuff. But he knows there's a big difference, but he's still a state champion, and no one can take that away from him. But coaches, they look at the whole, good coaches, I think, look at the whole picture. And as a coach myself, and I talk to my younger brother all the time because he's with the baseball and stuff. I honestly, I think as coaches, we have to be honest to the college coaches. We have to tell them, hey, this kid, you might have a tough time with him. He's a talented,
little bit of a loose cannon.
He's a talented athlete, but I want to be honest with you, because I think if you're not honest to the coach and it doesn't work out, I think it comes back on you. When you try to send when you try to send another kid there, they're like, no, I don't want him. I honestly, I think you need to be honest, and I think you need to be honest with the parents and tell them. Sure. This, and some coaches are afraid to do that. To me, I'm not. I'll tell the parents. I have parents all the time. Hey, do you think he's got the possibility to wrestle in college? And I said, well, it's one thing that's up to him.
Right.
That's up to him. But he's got to work for it. Too many parents say, I see it a lot in sports where there's, these kids, they play travel ball or, they're paying a coach to play for them.
Sure.
And my travel ball coach says I'm one of the best pitchers in the nation. Well, if you paid me that much money, I'd tell you the same thing.
We all have a price tag.
I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate with wrestling that I have a little club, but the money that I collect from the kids goes right back into the program, and we don't do any trial. It's not about traveling. I pay for my own hotel if we go anyplace.
Like you said, it's get mat time tournaments.
Yeah, it is.
Learning the skill.
But these kids, it's all up to them.
Right.
I don't pick the team. They do. I do make some adjustments here and there, but it's mostly them.
Sure.
But I just tell these parents, at schools and stuff, they need to really look what's best for their child. I've seen too many kids, St. John's kids that are very, very smart, good athletes that go to school and they're out. A year later, they're gone because the situation for them wasn't the right situation. I tell them, talk to the other athletes, not just the guy that's walking around, because his job is to get you to come here. I go, but talk to the other athletes. Talk to the guys that are second string. Find out how they're being treated.
Yeah. See if they're just punching bags.
To me, there's some great coaches out there that they do have their stars and they treat their stars like stars, but also too they treat the rest of the team like they're part of it. And that's a thing that we do at Creekside with our kids. I treat the JV they're just as important as the varsity.
Sure.
The guy that's second string is and the third string are just as important in varsity because we're developing, or a varsity guy might get hurt and they have to step in.
Sure.
Which happens. And
that's how you instill their confidence
absolutely,
too.
Absolutely.
They kind of buy in into the program.
Absolutely. And I think the best college coaches, no matter what sport, do that.
Sure.
I think they, the ones that, I think if they treat you an investment and they say, you know what, you're not producing, sit down, or we're not gonna, we're gonna find somebody else. I think they make that type of threat, and I tell the kids, look at the personality of the coaches. I know one situation, with one of my wrestlers with Shane, all the coach did was talk bad about the other schools. They didn't say, hey, why you should come to our school. All he did was talk bad.
Build
about
him up by
else.
knocking others down.
And to me, I look like this, I didn't like that as a coach.
Right.
I think it's, I talked to even, and I talked to other coaches, that helped me out, like our basketball coach, Jay Cody, he coached college basketball. And I talked to him about, things that I should look for. So, and I talked to the football coach, Greg Stanton, and, these guys, and my brother, because he deals with a lot of guys being recruited with baseball. And I try to get a feel what would be best for the kids. Again, but I think the biggest thing is education.
Right.
I really do.
Absolutely.
From the pro.
And
from the pro.
And, because once the light goes out in the mat, I mean, you got to,
Wrestling's wrestling.
Yeah,
I mean, either you're going to be on the top or the bottom.
Yeah,
there's no tween.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, we're going to take another quick break, and when we get back, we're going to break this down a little bit more, try to get into some more details, and again, continue sharing the information from Coach Marabell here that you will be able to take and hopefully, inject into your recruiting process. If you get one little tip that can make the difference, we've done our job.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back with you. Are you a high school athlete, parent of a high school athlete, maybe a high school coach or a college coach looking for a high school athlete, or just a fan of high school and college sports? Then you need the ViewRecruit mobile recruiting app. It's got everything. Athletes can create profiles, including their highlight videos. They can use the Recruit Network to send their profiles directly to college coaches. If a coach likes your profile, great. You get a notice directly on your mobile device and receive an email to boot. College coaches can receive updates directly on their devices and use the search function to find the talent that fits their program. Whether you're an athlete or a college coach, it's like having your very own recruiting department right at your fingertips. Download the ViewRecruit app now on iTunes for your iPhone, iPad, or iPod Touch. Be part of the #1 high school athletics and college coaching network. Get it today, the ViewRecruit mobile recruiting app. All right, and we're back. Hey, thanks for tuning back in here on The Breakdown. I'm your host, Roger Tillis, here with the co-host of your dreams, Chuck O. Lesker.
Nightmare.
Yeah, good point.
Hey, supporting the new View My Sport shirts, by the way.
On sale at viewmysport.com. Price yet to be determined.
That's right.
And of course, we're joined here by wrestling coach Rick Marabell. Outstanding to have him here today because we've been able to get into some of those little areas, those things that, the parents and the wrestlers themselves and some coaches out there don't think about. And I think we see this a lot in sports in general. Yeah. I think as far as the high school level goes, there's a lot of I think that there's a lot of vision as far as I want to go to the collegiate level. I'm going to play, and all I got to do is show up and be good. Man, I tell you what, there are just too many athletes out there.
Absolutely.
They're talented at their craft. They also have good grades. They're very active in the community, which is a huge character thing that the college coaches look at. So, you really do have to do your homework, your research, and kind of know what are those little things that I can do to kind of stand out from my competition. And that's why we bring guys like Coach Marabell in here so we can talk about that. And, again, as we said in our previous segment, if we come up with something, that kind of hits home a little bit different and it helps you out, great, then, we've done our job. Something we started talking about a little bit in the last segment that I want to touch base on it and reiterate, if you will. There is a big difference, and parents, listen up to this because you're kind of the guilty party, if you will. There's a big difference between a high school athlete being pushed into that path of go to college, try to get that scholarship. And I'll tell you what, it's also with the youth athletes. Go, be good so when you get in high school you can be that superstar, and so there's a push element. You don't want your student athlete, your child, to be pushed into sports or the path into the collegiate, the scholarship and whatnot. You want to be drawn. You want him to be pulled in and lured in so that he has or she has the passion, the want to be there, the commitment, Absolutely. Not just for that sport, but for everything else that comes with it, which is, going to class, not just attending and being present, but excelling. You want these kids to go in just ready to tear it up. And I tell you, the more you push, that's not they're going to rebel. I know, because I've had teenagers. I was a teenager. You betcha I rebelled. So did my son. I think we all probably have had that experience. Absolutely. But the fact is, you don't want to shove them, full force into the wrong direction. Make them, feel like they have to commit. You want them to commit because they want to commit.
Absolutely.
And that's the bottom line. And again, I don't care if it's wrestling, baton twirling, gymnastics, basketball, football, you name it. That's the way, in my opinion, that's the role of Absolutely. The parent when it comes to sports, youth, high school sports, and in the recruiting process. I think that's the parent's role. Be the parent, be a good leader, be a good example, be there for their questions and helping them prepare for whatever it is that they're going to have to face during that process. But don't shove them in there because it's something that you want. And I'll just kind of leave it at that because I think you get the message. I think you know where we're coming from.
I see that, and I see a lot of kids, in other sports their senior year they stop playing. And I see parents that are very disappointed with them because they stopped playing. But also, I think part of it, the kids have been pushed so much. It's one thing I do with my kids, the wrestlers, in the summer, I let them. That's their time. Now, do I expect them to get some mat time? Yeah, try to wrestle a tournament. I have kids that I had 2 kids went to the Penn State camp.
Nice.
3 kids actually went to Penn State camp. But I tell them do something. But also too, I'm not over them. I know a lot of coaches that, and they're really good coaches that they're practicing club practice 3 days a week over the summer.
Wow.
They're going to a tournament every weekend, which is great. It's great for their program. I think a little differently. I said one thing, I want the kids to be kids. Mm-hmm. But I expect them to work on their own, and I will give them as much information. I send stuff out to kids all the time. Hey, I saw this workout. This is something you might want to try. Make sure you're doing this. I find articles, but I expect them to work themselves, because if I'm driving them, it has to be that they have to have the drive themselves.
Sure.
Shane Carpenter and also Aaron Glenn, my 2 All-State guys, 2 polar opposite. Aaron's, a little guy, 113-pounder, and Shane was the 195-pounder. They couldn't wrestle each other, but they worked out with each other. They went to camps with each other. They supported each other.
I was going to say in each other's corners.
They
so
absolutely,
to speak.
absolutely,
Yeah.
but they did things on their own. They would call me, "Hey, coach, I'm thinking about doing this." And I know Shane was lifting weights in the morning. We do strength training, but I don't do weight training. We do sandbag workouts and stuff, and we do it 2 days a week. But I expect the kids on their own. They have to have that drive.
Sure. Right.
If I make them, okay, every day you're going to come in, first thing in the morning on every day in the morning we're running 5 miles. Then we had to go to wrestling practice. It becomes, they don't want to do this anymore.
Well, it's I got to do this instead of I want to do this.
And
big
to me,
difference
that's
in the
leadership.
performance.
And I tell kids, you don't have to have a title to be a leader. Anybody can be a leader.
That's
anybody
excellent
can be a captain.
Point.
I tell the kids, I need kids that that are other kids are going to follow. So you be a team builder.
Sure.
Be a team leader, and if you're working hard and you want the other kids around you to work just as hard, because if they work hard and if they've got, even though they're competition against you, they're going to make you better.
Right. Always.
Always.
And,
too many parents, and I've seen it more in other sports than my sport, because my sport's a totally different animal compared to everybody else. You got to beat the kids in front of you. I'm not picking the team. Parent can't come to me, "Hey, coach, why isn't my kid not playing that position?"
Ask him that
because this other kid's only batting this and stuff. Or they've missed this many balls.
No gray area. Either you win or you lose.
Either win or lose. But I just see it so many times where the parents, I tell the kids to work harder. I'm a history teacher. I teach AP Human Geography, and one of the things I tell the kids, it's one of my favorite quotes from Thomas Jefferson: "The harder you work, the more luck you're going to have." And I believe it's
you make your own
true.
luck. You bet.
I really do. I think the harder you work, the more luck you have. You can't blame somebody else. You can't. I see it in other sports. They blame the coach.
Oh,
well,
sure.
my kid didn't get a scholarship.
Right.
Well,
big in recruiting. A lot of finger pointing.
My kid should be getting a Division I scholarship. Well, your kid's 5'8", 160 pounds, and he wants to be a defensive lineman. I'm sorry.
Right.
Now,
better go see the wrestling coach.
He should have wrestled. Right. He should have wrestled. And I'd get him a wrestling scholarship. But I think the parents have to be realistic. I mean, I think they put a lot of pressure on the coach. I myself, for my kids, I talk to them. My biggest thing is communication with the kids and with the parents, and I talk to them. I say, "Hey, what's your goal? Is your goal to go to college or wrestle?" And I tell the kids, I don't care if you don't wrestle in college. It doesn't bother me. All I care is you go to college. I had one kid, Phil Zor. He came to started wrestling his junior year, and his grades, he was barely making the grades. He was kind of going nowhere in wrestling, and by the time his senior year came around, he was getting straight A's. He was so upset that he got a straight A's and a B, and he was going to go to college. He was going to go in the Army, and all of a sudden he goes, "Coach, I want to go to college." He got accepted for college, and even though they're not wrestling, he goes, "Coach, I'm thinking." He was a good lacrosse player. He stopped playing lacrosse just for wrestling. He goes, "I'm thinking about trying out for the lacrosse team." And he goes, "But I'm going to college." And to me,
A+ right there, man.
That's the biggest story. To me, to have kids be successful like that is to me, I don't care if he ever wrestles.
Sure. Right. Well, the sports, some people have to use sports as a, means to the end. That's their way in, and that's cool. I mean, we get it. We understand that. For everybody else, though, I mean, and really, college has got to come first. Even for those guys that have to get the scholarship, that's great. take advantage of it. You're in an even better position because you did get the scholarship for the sport, but now you've got the whole world at your feet as far as what you can learn and excel in and a career path. You know,
too many kids waste the opportunity.
Oh,
they go there, well, and they don't understand. They go to college. They're competing against kids that are at their level, if not above their level, and they don't realize that, you know, they have to look at these kids that they're competing against and say to themselves, what do I need to do to be better than A, B, or C?
Right.
You know, what am I not doing that they're doing? You know, I tell a story about my dad. When I was in high school, I was watching TV. It was bitter cold outside, and my dad goes, "Hey, you gonna run today?" I said, "It's too cold outside." And my dad never pushed us for anything. And my dad, he was a pretty quiet guy, never pushed for anything. He came back downstairs, and I was by a cold stove. It was so warm there. And he goes, in Pennsylvania, we knew every week who we were going to wrestle. We knew every week because they posted, you know, they did, you know, the stats, and they did it on TV and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
it's
like you said, it was big time. Yeah.
I mean, the reporters would come and film the matches, and they would show matches in the sports like they show highlights for football.
Wow.
And we knew pretty much who we were going to wrestle, you know, every week. And my dad says, "Who you guys wrestling?" I said, "I'm wrestling this school and this kid." And he goes, "He's pretty good." I say, "Yeah, he's not too bad." He goes, "I bet you he's running right now, thinking about beating you."
There's the carrot.
Yeah.
There's
That's right.
the
And I'm sitting
carrot.
there watching TV, and I'm like, you know, yeah. So I got dressed and went out running. But, you know, that's the kind of sport my dad would say, you know, "Hey, you don't need to do that. You need to do this, this, and this." He would make me realize what I'd have to do. And I try to do the same thing as a coach. I tell the kids, "Hey, you know, you're the one getting beat out on the mat, not me."
Sure.
You know? Now, I take it personal. Yeah. I look at, you know, and I tell kids when they lose, I lose. I feel like I didn't do something. What else could I have done to make them better?
To prepare them better,
you know?
yeah.
And I constantly myself are, you know, just like teaching. You know, I look at being a wrestling coach like a teacher. I prepare. I walk in with lesson plans. I have practice plans. I got that from the football coach.
Nice.
You know, I pay attention what the football coach. I pay attention what the other coaches do to run their practices, so I can make my practice more efficient. I read a lot. I watch film. I watch film with my kids. I watch film about wrestling. I mean, I tell kids I've probably forgotten more than you know.
And there's so much more out there now.
There is.
To learn from. I mean,
there is.
Almost to a fault. Where you know, God, what direction do I go?
Yeah,
you know, and that could be
I tell you,
tough.
for wrestling, you know, one of the best books I ever read was Vince Lombardi, the first season, and he talked about, you know, his playbook wasn't very big, and he says, you know, keep it simple, and you do it over and over again. And I do the same thing with wrestling. There's so many moves you can do.
Oh yeah.
And my kids will come back from camp and they'll do all these.
It's always
moves.
the latest move.
And I tell you, one of them, one of my kids made a mistake, and he was trying to move, and he got caught, and he lost his first match this year, and he was pretty upset about it. And I said, "Well, why were you doing this?" He's like, "I go, how many times you practiced that?" He goes, "I didn't. I just wanted to try it." Yeah. And he got caught and lost. And I said, "Well, you got to step up and win from this, you know." And he took it pretty hard. He took the loss pretty hard. And I said to Shane, you know, I said, "You need to go talk to him." I said, "Maybe he needed that loss." And Shane goes, "Well, I don't need it." He goes, "I had my loss last year at States." He goes, "I don't need a wake-up call."
Yeah.
But you know, I tell these kids, stick with the
response.
basics. And I think that's why we've been so successful at Creekside. I walk in and I get kids that have never wrestled before. Aaron Gillane, how I found him, he was a freshman in my class, and he was a break dancer. And I said, "Ooh, I go,
breakdance
you
fighting.
Everything about wrestling." You know, 2 years in a row, he was ranked in the top 10 in the state. You know, he placed 6th in the state. I think he should have placed higher, but he got hurt and to wrestle for the 3rd and 4th match, he actually dislocated, tore the ligaments in and out, and he couldn't keep on going. But he finished the whole match.
Wow.
I said, "Why don't you stop?"
Tough kid.
And he wanted to keep wrestling.
Kid.
He wanted to keep wrestling. He goes, "Coach, just tape me up. I'll go." And I go, "You're done."
Yeah, stop.
I go, "You made it all state." You know,
Yeah,
I felt bad for him because it was his last match, you know, and of his senior year and stuff. And he worked so hard. But you know, I tell the kids, you know, it's about working hard. You know, I tell you, I can make them a winner. I can make you a winner. I go, but a champion's on you.
There you go.
You have to find inside yourself, what am I going to do more to become better? You have to think, okay, what is my, you know, And I tell them, I go, look at, pick somebody in the States can be in your weight class that you wrestled, you lost to, or you wrestled over summer, and you make that your goal. You think about, okay, well, what is, John Doe doing today? Become better. Is he running today?
Shoot. It's a vision quest. Yeah. Who's your shoot?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Pick the guy climbing the stairs with the log on his back.
And I think the best wrestlers do that. We saw that this year with David Taylor and Kyle Dake. Taylor could have easily moved up a weight class or moved down a weight class, but he lost. I think lost 3 times to Dake. Dake 4-time national champion in a weight class. Here's a guy that's moved up a weight class. Every year he's moved up a weight class. So and Taylor's moved up. He could have won another weight class and easily won a national champion, but he said, "Hey, this is the guy I want to go."
That's the challenge I want.
You have to. Yeah, and I'm telling kids, and I tell my kids, I go, I'm going to put you in a situation where you're going to lose. It's what you do from there.
Find out what you got in here to get yourself out of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, too many coaches, they, kind of, hey, we're going to put you over here so I don't want you to wrestle this kid.
We'll take any kind of win.
Yeah.
No worries about the character of the kid.
Yeah.
That's a shame too, because wrestling is such a character building sport.
It is.
I mean, huge. I mean, more so. I mean, because it's you. You're the one on the mat.
Absolutely.
There's nobody blocking, none of that. You can't pass it off. It's not tag team like in the WWEF, whatever the. It is. It's all you.
I've had a couple freshmen that are going to be sophomores, really good kids. They actually stopped playing football and they want to wrestle. They're going to run cross country, and he's been wrestling all summer, and he's been taking a beating. He's been losing left and right, and he's upset about it. And I said, one thing, let me tell you, buddy. I go, you got to learn to take a beating to give a beating. Yeah. And I said, the thing about it is, I go, do you think Aaron Gillane, his freshman year, was winning every match? I go, he was behind Luke Bastet. He was JV. His sophomore year, I go, he wasn't. Things didn't happen until his junior year. I go, but he put the work into it. And I said, the harder you work, things are going to happen.
Sure, like you said, you make your luck.
I can't guarantee when it's going to happen, but if you keep on working towards that, and I tell everybody about Shane. This kid hates to lose. He hated to lose. He lost. He screwed up his junior year. He's in a match. He's beating the kid, and he did he had a loose single. The kid loud dropped and stuck him to his back and pinned him. And he took it pretty hard. He didn't wrestle the same the whole tournament, and he hated to lose so much. He said, "You know what? I'm not going to ever let this happen to me again." And he ended up being our first undefeated wrestler.
And that's what drove him.
And drove him. Yeah. He was behind in the finals. He was down 3-0 in the finals. And it was funny because people asked me, "Were you nervous?" Because they had it on TV and stuff. I said, "Not at all." I go, "Because this kid will find a way to win because he hated to lose so much." And that's what I said to the coach, Coach Wainwright at Coker. I go, "This kid's going to be a national champion for you." I go,
he finds his own motivation,
absolutely,
and his desire.
Well, it's the first time in his life that he ever, he wrestled over the summer. Went to wrestling camp. Never went to wrestle over summer. Never wrestled wrestling camp. So he was making the commitment, and that's about It's about commitment. Mm-hmm. Kids aren't if they're willing to make the commitment to become better. Look at Michael Jordan.
Sure.
I use that example all the time. Look at Michael Jordan.
Well, and you're in the spotlight too. Again, you can't just blend in.
No.
Once you're on the mat, it's you. Hey, I want to ask you a quick question before we go into break. You were talking about how you meet with the parents and the wrestlers at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Now, is that something that you do at the beginning, or do you have kind of a you talk about your plans. Do you have a consistent schedule, for lack of a better phrase, with the parents where you say, okay, at the beginning, here's where we're at, and then maybe in the middle of the season, do you bring them in again, and then towards the end, and are you educating them from a recruiting perspective, or is it all just information at the beginning? And
I give them some information, but I send stuff out left and right. I'm a big PowerPoint guy, so I make PowerPoints from PDF.
There you go. It looks so cool.
Like if you go to our website, you'll see I have a PowerPoint. It's called Wrestling 101. It's to educate the parents for the kids that have never wrestled.
Nice.
I
saw it actually. I didn't get a chance to look it all over.
I talk to the parents about diets. I talk to the kids about diets. I give them paperwork all the time. I talk to them throughout the year. Because the JV parents, the parents that never had their kids wrestle, I get inundated emails because they have no clue what's going on.
Right.
And I try to, a lot of times I'll call them. I'll call them from school or something like that. Just talk to me. Hey, this is the situation. But I think, being honest with them and giving them as much information as possible to help them. Now, I'm in a unique situation compared to all the other sports because, again, my kids win to get their spot, earn their spot. So the parents are a little
of the politics you're not having to really deal with.
I don't deal with politics at all. I think in the 5 years I've coached at Creekside, I've only had one parent question me on why I did something, and I just looked at him and go, "How many years you wrestled?" Because I didn't. I said, "Conversations over."
There you go.
The defense rests, Your Honor.
And I said to him also too, as I put your kids in a situation to lose. Wrestling in Florida compared to Pennsylvania is different. Pennsylvania, we have a set schedule. We have a league that we wrestle in. Then you have districts, regional, and states. Florida, there's no league. All you have is districts, regional, and states. So all the matches and stuff are just a lead to districts, regional, and states. And I tell the kids, I don't care if you lose every single match to get to districts, regional, and states, and all of a sudden things just click.
You use that to prepare.
And you win you have to win 12 matches to be a state champion. And I told him, I said, I don't care if you win, if you're 0-40 walking in and all of a sudden you're 11-40 and you're a state champion. It's you getting better. So I walk into it a little bit differently, and I tell the parents, with this, I don't care how many dual matches you win. I don't get a medal for it. I want to win.
So I was going to say it's nice to win.
We've never lost a dual match at Creekside.
Oh wow!
Ever. And,
excellent.
We've only lost to one St. Johns County team, and that was my first year, and that was to Pedro Menendez. But we have never lost since. I've never lost to a St. Johns County team, and that's my goals for myself and stuff. We got a team this year, a lot of young guys, but I think by the beginning of the year to the end of the year, we're going to have a district championship team.
Very nice.
I thought it was going to happen this year, but things just didn't play out the way. But also too, I tell the kids, Shane says, "Coach, sorry we didn't get you a district champion." I go, "Yeah, but you got me a state championship." You became a state. And I tell the kids, when you win, I win.
Right.
And we win. I go, you win, the team wins. Right. So I said it's a little different compared to when you played football. Hey, he missed that pass.
Right. Right.
The quarterback threw that interception.
You could get blown out, but I did good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And wrestling's a little different, but I really try to educate the parents as much as possible. And to me, I'm open. I talk to them about it.
Make yourself available, obviously.
Absolutely. And I think all coaches are like that. And again, other coaches are in different situations. I know with my brother, with parents, they don't want to talk about their own kid. They want to talk about everybody else's kid.
Yeah.
Well, Johnny's only hitting, 280, but he's like, well, he's also has this many RBIs.
Right.
I think if you look at the movie like the Moneyball.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I love that movie.
Statistics and stuff. And I look at statistics when for wrestling's all I keep very meticulous stats on all my wrestlers, all their matches, and I'll review film and do stats because statistics don't lie.
Right.
Numbers don't lie. And Moneyball kind of shows
Put
that.
the emphasis on
it really
that.
Does.
You bet.
It really does.
You bet.
And parents don't see that. They see, well Johnny struck out 3 times last game, but he's batting, 300 the rest of the year.
Yeah, they see the see the obvious. They don't, break it down.
They see the small picture, not the big picture.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap up a few things, try to put to bed some myths and whatnot, and we'll see if we can extract some more great information for you guys out there from Coach Marabell. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
At Marsh & McLennan Agency, we understand the property and casualty market. We use our technical expertise and utilize a consultative approach to design a risk management program that's just right for you. Some of the many products and services Marsh & McLennan Agency can provide in the areas of property and casualty insurance market include general commercial liability tailored to specific industries, directors and officers, errors and omissions, and other professional liability, workers' compensation, self-insurance plans, construction, fidelity and surety bonds, wholesale, surplus lines, and specialty products, personal lines including homeowners, automobile, and umbrella policies. Let Marsh & McLennan Agency help you identify, plan for, and respond to critical business issues and risks. For more information, call Marsh & McLennan Agency today at 888-292-9806. That's 888-292-9806.
All right, and we're back. Hey, thanks for tuning back in. I'm Roger Tillis, your host of The Breakdown. Joined, of course, with Chuck Olesker and our very special guest today, Coach Rick Marabell, the head wrestling coach for the Creekside Knights of St. John's, Florida, and doing a great job, outstanding job. And every year it seems like you guys just get better and better and better. We were just talking over the break. You had how many kids? 45 kids?
45.
Outstanding.
45. And I only lose about maybe 5 of those kids.
I know a lot of high schools that don't have that many on their football team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we get a lot of kids. A lot of kids want to wrestle for us. I think, too, it's as a coach being honest with the kids, and also it's the kids I have. Mm-hmm. I have great kids. I have really, really smart kids. We had Brendan McLaughlin, who ended up going to Vanderbilt, was number 5 in his class. We had Gage Preston. I think he was in the top 10 of his class that wrestled for us. So I have some very extremely smart kids. Aaron Glenn, very smart. I had Jacob Tyre. I think he's either going to Boston University or Florida.
Very nice.
Accepted both of them. I have great kids, and I think that's what attracts the other kids is the kind of kids you have.
They're great role models for the other kids, whether they know it or not.
Absolutely. I mean, I talk to the other coaches. You always, teams always have cancers, and sometimes I don't care how great of an athlete, sometimes you got to get rid of that cancer,
right?
Because it affects the whole team. You have to look at the overall health of the team. Is it about winning? And too many coaches look at, hey, I want to keep this kid because it's about winning, and I think you put yourself in a situation.
Yeah, win at all costs is not a good rule of thumb.
Absolutely, I look at it. Again, wrestling's a unique situation in Florida. Will we ever win a state championship? I'm not sure. I can't say that because
stay tuned.
But my thing is I'd rather have state placers and state champions, individual. I tell the kids, this is about you. It's not about me. When it's in the paper, they don't say, hey, Coach Marabell and Creekside Wrestling. It's Creekside Wrestling.
Right.
Shane Carpenter, Aaron Gillane,
show their
Justin
numbers.
Lango, Jared Lango. They say the kids' names and stuff out there. It's really not, it's not about me.
Right.
It's about them. And I think that's what's been attracting all types of kids to our program is I think part of it is the way I run the practices, but also too I think part of it is the kids that are in that program that bring the kids together.
And nothing speaks higher than those kids standing out like that to entice the kids behind them, and you kind of hope that stays stays the course.
I try to have the kids mentor each other. I know Luke Bastay, when he wrestled me, was Aaron Gillane. He was mentoring Aaron Gillane, and Luke ended up coaching a little bit with us and stuff. And I can hear Aaron talk like Luke, and doing things. And I see that Shane was doing the same thing, working with some other kids. I think if you get them to understand, if you make the kids around you better, you're going to become better.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
By all means. Teaching, regardless, whether it's in sports or just in the classroom or whatever, you tend to absorb a lot of what you're teaching, and it does. It helps you put the focus on those fundamentals.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And as a coach, I think it makes it easier for the coach.
Oh, yeah.
It really does.
You have a bunch of assistant coaches out there, and they're all kind of, doing it your way.
And then I tell the kids, I do a lot of coaching on the mat when I coach, and they listen very well. I think that's one of the things I get from other coaches because, man, your kids, they hear your voice, they listen. It's like, and I'll see them move because I tell them wrestling's like a chess match, and you got to be 2 or 3 moves ahead. And because I've done it this is my 40th year on the mat.
Wow.
And I told I've done it for so long that I see things before you see it. But if you listen, you're going to hear me say it. And Aaron was probably one of the best I've ever seen at it, and Luke Bastay as well, that they would hear it and bang. Even Matt Watson.
I was going to say, one of the few sports that you do want to have rabbit ears.
Yeah.
You do.
Right. Yeah. And they listen very well. But I think what makes our program, what helps our program is the intelligence of our kids. They know. I'm a hound about education. I'm on them. I review their grades all the time, and I've had kids that their grades went down that I had to. I don't let them wrestle. What I do is then I make them go to tutoring.
There you go.
Tutoring.
Outstanding.
They're required to have tutoring.
That's the example that you want to follow.
Absolutely.
Right there.
I tell you, and I tell them, I have kids that stop wrestling because of grades, and I stay on, hey, how are your grades? I talk to them all the time, even if they know they're not wrestling, because I know if they don't graduate from high school, even if they don't go to college,
it's so many, much greater loss.
It is. It is, and I stay on top of it. That's to me is education's number one.
Sure.
I didn't think like that when I was in school. It was about sports.
A lot of us didn't.
It was about
sports or girls,
That's right.
or cars.
I think I tell you, for me, teaching in St. Johns County and what they instill us as teachers, with the kids. I teach AP and I teach freshmen, and I think it's a very hard class to teach because these kids have no clue about what they're about to get into because it's such a tough class. It's a college level class.
Sure.
But I'm excited about it because I see them by the end of the year, their growth, and I see the same thing in wrestling. And I tell them, even if they have, I never turn anybody down for wrestling. Never. Either they're going to make it or not.
I was going to say it's a self-policing sport.
It really
is.
It really is.
I want to ask you something, and we talk about this a lot on our shows. This is one of our foundations, if you will. Kind of curious on your opinion. Now, as with a lot of sports, there's the recruiting industry with all the different services, the scouts, and some of these companies out there charging thousands of dollars for alleged recruiting assistance and matching and stuff like that. What's your take on to spend that kind of money and these companies out there preying on the kids and their parents?
Well, I think that's probably the best way. They're preying on the parents because the parents want the best for their kids. It's the same thing where if I'm playing coaching travel ball, I'm kind of there's some great travel ball coaches out there.
Sure.
Some of them, because they're paying the money, they're going to tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
And that's I think that's the bad thing about it. Hell yeah, he's a Division I prospect. And I see.
What's the amount of that check I make it out for? Yeah, exactly.
He's definitely. I think the parents, for one thing, I know the parents want the best for their kids, but also too, they also have to. I think talking to the coaches. Talking to other parents,
research the college,
talking to. They need to do the legwork themselves. As a coach, I did a lot of legwork for Shane because if you want to, I tell all my kids, if you want to wrestle in college, for one thing, you need to tell me what type of college you're looking. You need to look at what type of degree do you want and stuff. I've had a couple of kids say, "Hey, coach, I want to wrestle in college, but I want to go to school to be a physical therapist." I'm okay. Well, one thing you need to research the physical therapist because
it's a pretty broad field.
Only the top 10% of this, get into this program,
right?
And you're not even the top 10% of the school. So I'm not saying you can't do it.
That 2.6 probably won't get you where you want.
But I tell them, not saying you can't do it, but you need to step up. But I think the parents need to go out and they need to research it, not just let somebody else do it for them.
I say that all the time because they talk about we can match you. And this isn't a dating service. And that works real well for that industry too.
Right.
You need to, nobody knows what a better fit is than you and your kid.
Right.
Well, there's so many, football. There's colleges, junior colleges that have football.
Yeah.
The junior college for baseball.
Yeah.
My nephew Connor
volleyball.
went to junior college instead of going to 4-year college because he wanted to play. He knew he had a better chance at a junior college to play than he had coming as a freshman as a 4-year college. To a 4-year college. You have to look at that. Again, you have to go to the campuses. You have to talk to the kids. Hey, what do you like about the campus? But if you let somebody else match it up, I think you're setting yourself up for failure.
Sure.
The percentage cannot be high for a success rate.
Well, and a lot of times they're trying to build their stats, so they'll find a match, any match for whatever amount of money, and it looks good on their board, but and that's where you see a lot of this mismatch washouts, kids that really
I know at Creekside there's a few kids that a couple kids that I wrote letters for that I didn't coach. They played other sports. That their parents and themselves worked extremely. They worked harder than the coach. Not saying the coach didn't work hard, but they worked harder than the coach to find a school for their child.
As it should be. The coach then validates when the college coaches hooks or gives them the reference or whatever. And
I told them, I said, I talked to them. I go, was the effort you put in worth it? And they said yes. The percentage that kids are successful in college, especially athletes, because it's so much harder. They may say, well, the classes, you only have 5 or 6 classes a week, or you only have 2 a day. But when you're, especially Division II, Division I level, even NAIA, it's a business.
Oh, sure it is.
And these coaches have to be successful,
constant.
and they're on you. I mean, they're sending you to tutoring. You have mandatory study time. I know Penn State was like that.
Public relations appearances and stuff like that. I mean, you're the mouthpiece for the for the organization.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's compared to when I went to school, I think it's more of a business than ever before. But the parents, I honestly think the parents and the athletes need to, they have to be mindful of it. I think the athletes have to, get film of themselves. It's not, don't always put it on the coach. It's hard because I'm handling 14 other guys.
Well, a lot of schools, small budgets, they may not be able to afford, the cameras and having it done.
I know a lot of the parents, I tell them I could put it on YouTube and send the link to the coaches.
See, you know what would even work better than YouTube? ViewMySport.com.
That's right.
Which is, and that's, obviously, our organization, we're all about giving the tools, kind of, not feeding, not enabling, teaching you to fish so you can feed yourself. We use that analogy all the time.
Right.
All the tools and resources are there to set up your information, and then we give you all the information to the coaches so that they can network and get that information there and stay. I mean, and again, that's what you want. Again, you want the parents and the athletes out there. I mean, when the smoke clears, it's their money they're saving. It's their future how can you not want to be involved in that?
Absolutely.
I would never write a check to someone and say, "Yep, okay, go handle it for us." Something that important?
Absolutely.
Hell, I hardly want to do that till I have washed my Jeep.
First and foremost, your child's education is the most important thing.
Number one.
I mean, they go to college and God forbid they get hurt and stuff like that. And if they're at a college that they don't want to be at, then you turn around and
you don't want them to be a washout statistic.
Absolutely,
right.
Absolutely. And too many kids are.
Yep.
But I tell you, I think the parents have to be hands on. I think they need to talk to coaches, push the coaches.
Sure.
My parent, I know with a couple of my parents that I've talked to colleges, they've had great questions, and have a list of questions that you can ask the coach.
Be prepared. Bet.
I mean, I know with Shane, his mom, had questions when she went to colleges, and she even told me, she says, "Hey, I don't like this coach because it's just the way he was talking. I really like this coach because he talked to me about it." And I said, "Well, you have to look what's best for your child, education wise, number one." Sports, as much as I love wrestling, and I tell you, sports is something that that you get to play, but it's not your life.
Right. It's an extracurricular. Right. I mean, it's called a game.
Look at a lot of these NFL players. A lot of them are, they play NFL and they're broke. And because
unbelievable,
and
a lot of sad stories.
Absolutely, and a lot of times they're broke because people have handed stuff to them.
Right. Well, and think about it; they're the ones that make it to that level. You don't have that for volleyball or wrestling. I mean, you can Olympics and then maybe get some, some suit deals or some. I mean, but there's no long career in that sport.
I think they have to look at the options. You talk about volleyball. When Creekside had that Final Four team. I know a lot of the girls. I had them in class. They, were going to college.
Kelly Crawford. Yep.
Great girl. I had her in class. Great girl. I think they were going to smaller colleges, junior colleges.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Just to play the sport, but also for to continue their education.
A little developmental process.
Absolutely. I see a lot of the softball girls went to, a couple of them went to, like Victoria Daddis went to FSU, and some of them went to smaller schools and stuff.
Right.
You have to find what's best for you.
Right.
I know parents say, "Hey, I want my kid to be a Gator." I'm going to play football for the Gators. God knows why, but
he doesn't mean that.
I'm a Penn State fan. So.
There you go.
No worries. We'll just rip off that orange Tennessee stripe.
I like FSU. I love watching football.
Yeah.
But first thing, it's funny about the football. Even any sport, one thing I look at is the coaches. I look at the coaches of each team, and usually I'll follow teams just because of the coach.
Sure.
And I think that's another thing parents have to look. They have to look at: is this coach going to take care of my child?
Right.
You know,
well, they're the surrogate. I mean, you're
absolutely. And if you're paying money for someone for recruiting, trying to find it, they're not looking at that.
they don't. They could care less.
Yeah, I think our coaches are. When I went into the college recruiting process, I looked at it for my son as this coach is going to be an extension of my family. And are their values and beliefs and ideals?
He's like the uncle that your kid's going to be staying with for 4 years.
Right.
And I tell you, when I wrestled for Larry Fornicola, I was injured again most of my sophomore year, and he got his I think it was his 300 or 500th career win. I can't remember. I think it was 300 it might have been 500 because he was there for a while. And I said, I did the speech because we got him a gift and stuff, and I said, one thing I say about this is he was like my dad,
right.
And nothing against my dad, because my dad was a great man. And I had Aaron Gillane do the same thing to me this year he says, Coach Marabell's like my dad. I can talk to him, when I need to talk to him about it.
Nice.
And then his dad says, "Hey, if you want to pay his college," I said, "No, but I tell the kids,
I got all the free advice I can give them."
But I tell the kids, just as a coach, I'm just not your coach, but also,
right.
I'm your friend, and I still have kids come back today, and they're making decisions. I've had former students, hey, coach, I'm thinking about going to school. Can you write me a letter?
Nice.
And
just have great influence.
Absolutely, and I think that's the big thing about coach, especially college coaches. I think you have to look at, you talk about, is this an extension? Is he going to look out for my kid, or is my kid just a number or just a player?
Right.
And to me, that's the biggest thing.
Sure.
It's not about where you go. It's not about, the big name school. It's about what type of coach, am I dealing with?
Right. And the journey that you're on, enjoying our mantra. We end the show every single week. Enjoy the ride.
Absolutely.
You can't constantly be looking forward to the next level, the next level, the next.
Absolutely.
You better enjoy what you got right at your feet at that time, because you don't know if that next level's coming. You don't know if the next day's coming in your sport because of injury or grades or something. Who knows what can happen?
But also be blessed where you're at.
I mean, be in the now.
I look at these young kids that are going to JUCO or going to NIA school or Division III or Division II, and they're still playing sports. It's not going to last forever.
Right.
It's not going to last forever. I mean, your body can only take so much. Also, you're going to get older, and you're going to have a family and stuff. So once it's over, it's over. And you may coach.
Ask Chuck. I mean, geez, it's really over.
Yeah, it's beyond over.
But I tell the kids, enjoy the ride. But also too, if you go, I love the coach at Millersville. Shorty was a great guy, but also too, for me, it just, I didn't do my homework.
Mm-hmm.
And my parent, I like some things you're gonna ask me, like, how much my parents weren't involved with it. It was me.
All you.
It was me, but I had one mindset, and I try to, as a coach, throw options to the kids. And Shane was kind of had that mindset. Hey, I want to go Division I. I want to go Division I. I said, not saying you can't compete at Division I. I think you can, but you also have to find the best situation for yourself.
Right.
And that's one thing I talked to his parents about. I didn't push him this way. I just said, his parents, I go, for one thing, what do you think of education? That's the first question I asked. What do you think about their facilities for education? They said, we really like this school because it's a smaller school, and we think he can be more successful.
There you go.
They're on the right track.
Right. Sure.
And
hopefully they'll influence him with enough bait, so to speak, because the kids, I mean, and I'm with you 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, the college coaches want to talk to and see what kind of person the athlete is.
Absolutely.
Not what their parents are like, not what the coaches are like, or the paid reps or whatever. They want to talk to the product. And then the parents help them prepare for that.
Yeah.
And that's really, that's it. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Well, I tell you what. You know what? I bet we could have Coach Marabell on for another show in the future. I think that there's going to be a lot more to talk about. I tell you what, we could probably spend a show talking about dropping and gaining weight for different weight classes. We can get all kinds of those ins and outs.
I did it.
I'm
not a big believer of it.
I did it. I did it, meaning I didn't go up in weight class just out of fear. It was all I could do to stay where I was.
I went from 170 down to 118 at one
time.
So.
Holy mackerel!
Yeah.
I don't think
And I shouldn't have been at 18. I should have been like at 26, 32. But
wow,
still,
I look like Jack Skeleton. If I
and back then they didn't have all these rules like they do now. But I tell you, I think, and that's one thing I tell my parents. I don't want your kids losing more than 10 pounds. I go eat healthy. They're going to lose weight.
What about gaining? What about going up?
Well,
is it kind of is it kind of a 10-pound?
I tell you, I have a few kids that have talked to me about, Coach, I'm thinking about going up. I go, then work harder. You're gonna even though you're gonna have kids that are gonna come up from a higher weight, work harder than them, get stronger, be that weight. I go because a lot of the best college wrestlers don't lose weight. They're gonna naturally lose weight. I had a kid last year came out and weighed 210 pounds. By the time the season was over, he was weighing 182 pounds.
Whoa!
And it wasn't that he was just dieting, and he just lost weight naturally. And
did it the right way.
Yeah, did it the right way. And I'm not a big. I don't like crash diets. I educate my kids on
and no supplements. I hope
I'm not a supplement guy because I think the supplements have been part of the ruination.
Yes.
I've never seen injuries. I mean, all the years I wrestle, I've never seen injuries like I've seen now of what these kids, with dislocated shoulders and bones breaking in half. I've seen on the mat where a kid posts and snap right there.
Yep.
I've never seen injuries like that. And back then, I mean, they can say, well, it's because of dieting. I'm like, listen, when I wrestled, we did some pretty stupid things on making weight, but there was no such thing as supplements.
Right.
We were eating, meat, potatoes, and the right stuff. And you
little X-Lax maybe as a supplement if you were really desperate.
To me, there's no supplement in real food.
Correct.
And I think,
everything you need.
I think if you eat right, I read Michael Phelps' book about what he went through. And actually one of my wrestlers, I gave it to him to read and to kind of for his own mindset because you can learn from all different athletes.
Sure.
And I'm a big believer in that. I believe in learning from different coaches and also different sports. I think overall, they're all.
There's an overlap there.
There is.
Yeah,
there is.
You bet.
There is.
Well, I tell you what, this has been a fantastic show. We're really happy that you were able to join us, Coach. And again, in the future, I think you'll see a repeat performance by Coach Marabell. Understand, again, our show is here to help share information that will make you successful in your recruiting process as a student, athlete in high school, youth, whatever the level is. But remember, it doesn't stop here. If you have anything at all that you need help with regarding whether it's recruiting or where you're at in high school, anything at all, please, parents, athletes, coaches, feel free to send your information, your questions over. And again, we have a fantastic board of advisors. We'll be more than happy to get information for you. And again, that's why we're here. It's all about helping out. If you have any questions directly for Coach Marabell, send them over. We'll get them to him. And any answers, we'll make sure we get right back to you. Again, we're all about the help. So in the meantime, please tune in next week. We're going to have a fantastic guest coming, as always. And in the meantime, don't forget, enjoy the ride.